Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the REDX podcast. My name is Haley Johnson. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. I do want to introduce our guest for today. We have Ashlee Chapman with us today. Hi, Ashlee.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today, specifically how to be a real estate closer. Ashlee is the expert here today to talk to us about that. But before we get started, I do want to talk to our audience and tell you that since you're live, you can ask questions in our chat room here on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching this. Please chat in your questions during this so that Ashlee can answer them. That's the perk of watching these live, that you get to ask questions in real time so that we answer them. So just chat them in and we'll make sure to get those answered. But I think that's it for beginning announcements and things. But Ashlee, why don't we just get started in introducing you? Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got into real estate, kind of like your background so people get a little feel for who you are.
Yeah, so I'm from Washington State. I have a big background in car sales and sales in general. So I was up in Seattle selling cars for a while and, just doing what I do. I loved it. I love car sales. I love cars. And I thought, I'll just get my real estate license here. And then I realized, I don't love Seattle. So I packed up and moved to San Diego, sight unseen. And I started in real estate as an inside sales agent, which is also an ISA. That's what people refer to, and they say they have ISA teams, right? So I was just on the phone 6 to 8 hours a day, and I wasn't licensed yet, so I was just prospecting all day long and living the San Diego life, which is extremely fun. And yeah, I decided to get my license, and I was doing a lot of like distressed short sales, stuff like that, and then went into the investor role. And on the side, I just like to go to the dunes, just have fun, hang out with my friends, stuff like that. So
I love it.
Love real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started in car sales. So that's interesting. Was it just kind of like a natural path into real estate because you were kind of already doing sales, or was it something like, how did you get into real estate?
It was just a natural progression. Like in car sales, you're working 60 to 70, 80 hours a week, and your quota starts over every month,
Right.
which was fine. Like I was always hitting like big numbers, but at the time, you just only make so much money in car sales. Like you just kind of cap out. It doesn't matter. You can sell X amount of cars. It's just, in real estate, the opportunity is endless.
Right.
It is the only thing that does create generational wealth, in my opinion. I don't really care to invest my money into stocks. And I thought, it's either now or never. So it was just this is what I'm going to do. I dropped everything I was doing, quit in car sales, moved to San Diego, got a job as an ISA, and hit the phones not knowing a single thing about what I was doing.
Wow. Okay, so I want to dive into that because I think a lot of our audience, like I said earlier, are newer agents. They're getting into the business. They're starting to prospect, and that's terrifying, especially. But you said that you went in kind of blind. So talk to me through that. Like, what did your conversation sound like? Like, did you have a coach, or did you just like, let's go?
I didn't have a coach. I was working for a brokerage at the time who had 2 offices, one in San Diego, one up in the Bay Area. So I was prospecting up in the Bay Area, foreclosures, notice of defaults, and notice of trustee sales. And that's all I was prospecting, and in San Diego as well. So, I had a script that they gave me, and we did a little bit of role play here and there. It wasn't super structured. I had the script, and I was so blind. Like, I was like, I don't know what a loan modification is. The only thing that I knew was I have to figure it out. So I kind of started doing loan mods for people. And then I started prospecting attorneys and people who are in that realm, bankruptcy, loan modifications, there's only one attorney in San Diego that I've actually found that even does them still. So that's how I started to like really understand what it was. And it was more so like, hey, this is Ashlee. Do you remember me? Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Talked to you forever ago. Just wanted to see, are you doing a loan mod or are you doing bankruptcy? So it was just a lot of like the sales stuff I had to learn really quick. Because appointments equals contracts, right?
Right.
And that is something that no matter, you can know everything about foreclosures and not close a deal, right? So it's a sales thing.
I like that. It's kind of like I've heard of like exposure therapy. So you can study for a test all you want, but when you actually get into taking the test, it's a whole different story. So it kind of sounds like what you did is you just like went into it, like hit the ground running and learned kind of just from exposure therapy. Would you say that?
I would say that it was a lot of hands-on experience. There are still things that come up now that I would have never known. So, that does happen to me a lot.
Would you give that advice to a new agent to tell them to just get on the phones and just start, or like what kind of preparation would you say? I think we might have lost her. Ashlee, can you hear me? Okay, guys, sorry we lost connection with Ashlee, and we will be right back as soon as we get that back.
Back on. Good to go.
We back? We're good?
We're good.
Okay. Sorry everyone for the connection issues, but we should be good. We're back. Ashlee, I think I was asking what you would tell a new agent to do with like exposure therapy, if they should just hop right into it, what they should do to prepare for prospecting, things like that.
I actually do think they should hop right into it. I think less is more. The less that I knew when I started, the more appointments I was going on. You have like this fearless mindset when you're new if you're hungry. And it's not for everybody. Some people like to hit on open houses and do whatever. But if you're going to do prospecting, just do it consistently. And I just think get out there and get on the phones. And if you're scared for people to hear you on the phone, I was so scared. So I just sat in a box and cold called by myself just to get comfortable. And now I can cold call live and I have zero issues. I'm like, okay, now I know, but when you first start, you don't know what it is that you don't know. So you're just like, oh, I just want to get an appointment. Yeah. And it's filling a pipeline.
Yeah, something I hear all the time from agents is this call reluctance, this fear of the phone, that is often a lot in their head. Like, they just get in their head about rejection. They're going to get rejected. They don't know what to say, all this stuff. And so you're just saying just to go in for it. Is there anything else that you would tell an agent who is just afraid of the phone?
Yes. I would tell them that they're only truly afraid because they have shiny object syndrome. There are so many things in real estate that you can do. Everybody, I don't even have a ton of deals under my belt. I will refer out deals because I don't care. I don't have some huge fancy website. That doesn't drive you business. But what you need to stick to the things that do make you money, which is number one are the fundamentals, open houses, cold calling, connecting with people. If you do that nonstop and you're still scared, you're not going to build your business.
I like that. Pretty blunt. Like, if you're not going to do the activities that are going to make you money, you're not going to make money. It's like, it sounds really obvious, but I think people just, they stick to stuff that is comfortable. Don't go out of their comfort zone. And so they stay like in a mediocre place that isn't where, like, people get into real estate with big goals and big dreams, because like you said, the opportunity in real estate is endless. But then they get into it and they're like, oh, this is hard. maybe I'm going to step back. Maybe this isn't for me. But if they actually just did it and commit themselves to do it, then I think they would obviously see the success that lead generation, prospecting, whatever it is, would give them, right?
Oh, 1000%. And I think everybody is a little scared. I'm scared to be on a live freaking broadcast right now. I'm scared about that. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just not rocket science. All of it. Real estate is not rocket science. Car sales, it was not rocket science. It was a numbers game, right? Yeah. And then it was true relationship building. I still have people that reach out to me that I sold cars to 5 years ago whose kids are turning 16 and they want to buy a car. So that is the level of pipeline that you should build. It's, closing on the appointments. Even if somebody doesn't sign a contract, building a relationship with them, that's not easy. That's not hard. That's not easy. It's not hard. See? So, they get defeated in their minds because it's an excuse, right? It's fundamentals. So they need to stick to the game and play it well.
I like that. Also, I was wondering, how do you stay motivated to do all of these things? Because I know, like, it's a numbers game and you can do all these things, but getting up every single day to prospect for a few hours can get maybe a little tiring or redundant or whatever. So what are some things that you do to stay motivated?
So I'm not. Okay. I'm not motivated. I would say that it's just true discipline, and something that really resonates with me is in this business, if you want to build wealth and longevity in real estate, you need to be replacing yourself. So now I don't prospect hardly at all. But the person that is in my place that's prospecting for me right now is, honestly, the goal is to make her better than I was, so that she can then bring, it's a constant, ever-changing situation. And that is what builds your team. It builds leadership, not following. And that is the number one thing. Be replacing yourself and teach somebody to do what you did even better than you, and watch your business grow.
Wow, that's cool. That's a good point, because I think the goal, there are some people, we call them like grinders, who just love to prospect, and they prospect for years and years and years, and that's all they do, and that's great. And then there's others that it's like scaling your business. You want not everybody wants to prospect for the rest of their lives. So like you said, you do it yourself, get the fundamentals down, get what you need to do, get the deals that you need, learn the skill, so then you can then pass down it to people that are doing it for you, or things like that. So that's interesting. So you would say leadership, building a team, things like that is something to look forward to if maybe you don't love to prospect. Is having the discipline to do it, and then teaching people after.
Absolutely. And I do still prospect. I actually, I freaking love prospecting. But when you start getting into multiple different deals at once, you have to kind of scale it out a little bit and be, on top of your game. So when you're spending a couple hours on the phone every day, let somebody else do it. Let them train, let them build. And then it's just ever changing after that.
I like that. A question that we get a lot, and we actually sent out a survey before this podcast to get some questions from people. And a question that we get a lot is what does your daily schedule look like? So back when you were prospecting, maybe a lot more, what does your day look like?
Yeah, when I was prospecting pretty much full time, which is what you are when you are new, you are a lead generator, you are an ISA. Everybody starts in that role if they're on the phones, if they're on REDX calling expireds, I don't care. So I was on the phone from 10 to 1, nonstop, 3 hours. And then I had from 3 to 4, I was following up with people I had prospected prior. And then from 4 to 7, I was nonstop calling. So it was a full day of just hitting it really hard. And that's something, like I said, shiny object syndrome earlier. And the thing is that there's so many things out there. Everybody wants to do social media. I didn't do any of that stuff. And it is just setting that schedule for yourself and sticking to it. It's like after 90 days, your pipeline just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you will be so surprised at what will happen for your business just in the first 90 days.
Wow, and that's just because you're not focused on all of the pretty things, and you're focused on the things that are actually going to bring you business. And maybe not even when you're just new, but when you want to do more business, or you're having a slow time, or things like that. Like prospecting creates consistency, because I think something that people complain about a lot in real estate is the inconsistency. Like your paycheck or your commissions, they depend on how well the market's doing. But if you're consistently prospecting, then that kind of goes away. Like it creates a lot more, like I said, consistency.
Oh, 1000%. And if your business and your paychecks aren't consistent in real estate, it's because you aren't. So you have to decide, is this something that you're going to do long term? Because a lot of people think, oh, I could just get into it and network with a few people and get some deals. I'm telling you right now, that's not true. It's not true. And you have to do the work and be disciplined enough to just commit to 90 days to 6 months of hardcore prospecting.
I love that. Something that another person said, they said that they are shy. So for maybe more the introverted people, maybe it's harder to build those relationships like you're saying. Do you have any tips for maybe more introverted people? I don't know if you're an introvert or an extrovert, but I assume you're talking about relationships. Maybe you're an extrovert. But what would you say to that group?
I would tell somebody who's a little bit more shy, just to maybe start out just a little bit. Don't go, you don't have to go out and prospect 6 hours a day, right? Just go on for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Just get comfortable with the idea of sitting by yourself and messing up. Be comfortable with that. And if you're more shy, it's like, you're going to do business with people who are just like you, right? So those are the people that you'll resonate with over the phone, shy or not.
I like that because everyone can have a little piece of the pie. It doesn't mean like not all real estate agents are the same, and that's a good thing. It appeals to different people, appeals to different kinds of markets, it appeals to different kinds of lead generation, things like that.
Right.
So that's interesting. Just kind of like take it at your own pace while still like doing it, like still getting out of your comfort zone, and then finding those people that you do resonate with.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So another question from the survey that we took was actually from Amanda. And I know we talked about this a little bit, but I kind of want to expound on it. She said, when first starting out, how do you balance everything? So prospecting, follow-up. She included social media. You mentioned that you didn't do that in the beginning at least. And how do you manage your time effectively to generate now and future business?
Yeah, good question. Time blocking is everything. So I'm easily distracted. So, my computer and my phone are on do not disturb right now, and I bet I've missed probably 10 phone calls. But if they weren't, and I got a phone call in the middle of dialing, I would want to take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to time block and manage your time in a way that you commit, 2 or 3 hours to what it is that you're doing. And then another really good thing about prospecting is when you're doing follow-up calls when somebody's in your pipeline, I would set aside 1 day a week for just follow-up calls. So that, because that between 3 and 4 hour, that hour window that I talked about, it's really good when you're brand new because you don't have a lot of follow-up. But once you get more and more of a pipeline, you're going to notice that it's like, oh, wow, I'm going to make 100 follow-up calls today. So really committing a certain part of your day to those things that generate you business. And then social media is like, do whatever, I am on social media all the time now. But at the end of the day, I would just set aside time for it. And that way you actually do it. My calendar has like, it literally says everything that I'm doing for the day. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not real. Right. So if it's on there, I will actually do it. If it's not, I'm like, well, shoot, I have a free day, So, just committing your time to those things and being very, disciplined about it.
I like that commitment, definitely. Because I think I was talking to somebody, another agent who does time blocking. Even they like schedule in like family time so that it is in the calendar, and that makes sure that it happens. Otherwise, and it's an appointment. So if somebody's trying to like get into your time, whether that's like prospecting, I think if it's in the calendar prospecting, then you're a lot more likely to do it. Than if you're like, oh yeah, I'll prospect when I get time, but you can push that off forever. So I like that. But being very intentional with your time that you have.
Absolutely, 1000%. It will change your life.
Awesome. I like that. So I do want to kind of talk more like techniques, go into like the nitty gritty of the phone calls, because you are good at closing, your techniques in closing. So I'd love to talk about some of that. So I want to talk about scripts that you might follow, or I know you mentioned you started with a script in the beginning. I'd love to hear how maybe that's evolved or changed. So let's kind of start with that.
Okay. Yeah. So I started with a script that was like, I was like reading it while I was on the phone, and I could just feel like this level of like, I sound scripted. So when I got into it, you always get kind of lucky in the beginning when you're prospecting. So I was like, oh, okay. The agent that I was prospecting for signed a contract off of one appointment, and it was like within my first 2 weeks. Right. So I was like, oh, I got this. I didn't know anything. I had no idea. I didn't have anything, right? So you get like this super high, like, oh, okay, I can do this. So the script I was using was very open-ended, it was good, but it wasn't good enough, and it wasn't for me. So I built my script over time around, I was calling NODs, notice of defaults, and it was just, you know how many people are calling them, right? So every investor and agent in town is. So I switched my script to, yeah, is this Haley? Haley, oh my gosh, glad I got you. This is Ashlee, do you remember me? And I have used that for any type of lead I've ever cold called for 3 years now. And I use it as an icebreaker. It kind of knocks people back and it works for me. And you know what? They're like, oh no, I don't. I'm so sorry. I'm like, yep, I should have called Haley sooner because I wanted to be on REDX 5 years ago. Right. So so that is like, that's the script. I mean, that's what I use. And then, from there, it's like just conversational. It's not, my least favorite thing about agents is they call people like saying that they have a buyer and they don't. That script is widely used. Oh, I have a buyer looking in your neighborhood. No, you don't. You don't have a buyer unless you really do. We have to stop doing things like that and just be straight up. These people are getting hundreds of phone calls. So that's what I found that worked. People were calling about their foreclosure date. Well, they're hearing that so many times. What are they going to hear from me that's different? And that's different. So that is how I just built on that, and I run with it every day.
I like that. My job is obviously in marketing, so I'm always thinking about different ways to say things or things that are going to jump out at people. So I like that technique of being a little bit different than every other single agent that is calling. And so I love that it's really like personal too. You're just like, hey, it's Ashlee. Do you remember me? Like, how's it going? And it sounds like that's like your opener, but it doesn't seem like you're super scripted. You're just like having a conversation, right?
Yep, every time.
That's awesome. What other like, do you have like some closing techniques or things that you like a follow, like an outline of what you follow or anything?
Yeah, I would say the biggest closing technique is like hearing what people are saying. So if I call you and you tell me, hey, I've got it taken care of. I my house isn't for sale. It's not for foreclosure. It's not going into foreclosure. I'm going to be like, okay, so, it sounds to me like you are getting it, taken care of. What is it? Did you get the sale date canceled by filing for a loan modification or doing bankruptcy? That's very open-ended. It basically brings out of them, okay, they don't want to talk to you, 90% of the time they're going to hang up. So the closing style is very, you have to pull the information out by asking open-ended questions, hearing the story, agreeing with them. Oh yeah, I understand. I can refer you to a bankruptcy attorney. In that, is it going to solve your problem? And if it is, listening to what they need, and then being like, yep, totally understand. My favorite closing is, are you available on weekdays or weekends? And is morning or afternoon easiest for you? Statistically, we know that people sign contracts on Saturdays, so go for weekends, and most people say weekends. So if I have to show up to somebody's house at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, I will. And that, if you give them options instead of asking them a yes or no question, they are going to answer with an option. They're going to be option A or option B. I'm available on the weekdays. Okay, great. You know what? So am I. I'm available Mondays or afternoons better. Cool. 2:00 sounds good. So that is something, I've heard other people prospect and like, yeah, I'm available tomorrow at 3. If I call my mom and tell her to pick me up from the airport in Seattle tomorrow at 3:00, she's going to say that she's not available. So
yes,
if we know that, just listening and closing them, it's a lot easier than people make it. It's really, really easy by giving options.
I like that. Something that I read in the chat here, Jerry said that she's correct when she said this is the hardest job people seem to think it looks simple. So something that I was thinking of is you said that it is simple. Like he's saying it's not simple, and we were talking about like you really need to commit to yourself, but like the fundamentals seem pretty easy. Like you aren't asking yes or no questions. You're asking open-ended. So it's like you're getting more information out of them anyway. Questions like that it seems like you follow a basic, like, I don't know what I'd call it. Like, it's not really a script. It's just like principles. You like follow principles of a script, kind of. And then that gets you the information that you need in order to close them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And there, you know, something else that's really, really important is he's right. It's not easy. But something that we have to remember is it's just the activity, right? And, you know, something I also say on the phone, which is something I think is super powerful. I ask people if they would entertain an offer, not a cash offer or offers, because if they, you know, oh yeah, maybe, that's an indication that they would either list their house or take a cash offer from me or one of my investors or something like that. So the verbiage and the style is important. And that kind of comes as you go. You know, I know all the investors in town, they're like, yeah, would you entertain a cash offer? Okay, everybody behind me that's calling them is saying cash offer.
Yeah.
If they're going to entertain an offer, I can put their property on the market, or I can give them a cash offer. But just by saying cash, it implies that it's an investor and you're just like everybody else that has called before you. So those little things you pick up over time, but super powerful.
I love it. Looking at it kind of from a different lens, I like it. Spencer asked a question, and I know you focus on like investments and investment properties, things like that. But he asked, like, what type of leads should I be prospecting with the low inventory? So I kind of want to talk about low inventory and maybe how it's affected you, and the opportunity that maybe you've taken from it. So so talk to me. Let's talk about low inventory. Okay.
Inventory is only low. You are not prospecting. So everybody, you know, a lot of people in their own marketplace, they know these big agents. You know, I aspire to be a bigger investor in all these things. And they're like, how are they doing so many deals when inventory is low? Well, because they're doing the work. Okay. Like the work does not change. I don't care if you're the best cold caller in the world. If you are not cold calling, you're not going to get business. So you have to decide, like, okay, it's up to you. You write your paycheck, right? So, and I did the same thing in car sales. It's like, if you were not selling 20 plus cars a month, it's because you weren't getting in front of enough people. So you have to consistently stay on top of the game. And that is just by doing the work. It's like, you know, I mean, I hear people talk about low inventory all the time. Well, yeah, it's only low, but you know, your pipeline is big. You know, I'm doing so many more deals now that, you know, since COVID, the market is so hot here. I have more off market deals than probably most people, and more deals going on behind the scenes. And it all came from cold calling and actually doing the work. Like when everything stopped, I was on the phones, I was prospecting, I was doing mass texts, I was like hitting the ground running. I was like, okay, now it's time to rock and roll, because if anything happens to the market, I'm going to be able to buy X amount of properties and get my investors X amount of properties. So, and that, just that little bit transformed everything. Now it's like people call you back. You know, you just never know when it's the right time. So you just have to stay on them. And then your inventory is endless. But it's up to you.
I love this because it's like personal accountability, and however your business is doing, it's up to you. It's like what you said, which I love because no one wants to be dependent on the market. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier. And so it's interesting because I think a lot of people, when COVID hit, it was like an excuse to kind of slow down. And especially with low inventory right now, because pandemic is a little bit less of an issue. We're kind of used to that part, but the market hasn't caught up. So obviously it's still a lot of low inventory statistically. But like you said, like for you, it's not. Like you're prospecting, you're cold calling, you're calling these people. So kind of what we said about consistent business. It's just up to you to be calling that. So I like that, because anything that hits the fan, like COVID happened, or if the market were to drop, or if it, things like that, it doesn't actually matter. It does matter if you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, like cold calling and lead generating and all this stuff. So I like that. I love this discussion of just like personal accountability, because we like to blame things. We like to take the road that's easiest. We like to, like sit back and relax, all those things. But that's not what is going to get you to the success that a lot of people desired. A lot of people got into real estate to get, right?
Yeah. 1000%.
I love that. That's awesome. So Larry just said, listing inventory has been below 1 million units for quite some time. There are approximately 325K units that will fall into forbearance, and that will still not put us above 1 million units. Wow. Okay, so let's talk about foreclosures, because I know that's something that you've done in the past, because a lot of people are saying, like, a lot of people, since no one's paying their mortgage or things like that because of lost jobs and things, whenever it is expected, especially for people that own rental properties or things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen there?
I think, coming from a background of foreclosures, I think it's really important to understand the process, because if that comes back around and, the forbearances, it's going to change into, you are going to have to be educated, and know what you're doing. I professionally do not believe that it's going to be a mass, foreclosure situation ever again. There is so much equity in the marketplace now. People can't just get a loan by showing a library card anymore. So, it's a little bit different this go around. I honestly think that if that time comes, it's going to be a little while. Interest rates are low right now, and COVID created a mass buyers with the interest rates and refinances. Right. But the forbearance situation, if we see foreclosures, there's going to be a lot of equity in the market. It's not going to be, it's not going to be, short sales and all that jazz. It's going to be, okay, it could be in the form of liens, people who lost their businesses and they own property, stuff like that, where, they're not making their HOA payment, but they want to pay their mortgage. So I think that's what I anticipate, but I don't think that a bunch of property is going to pop up on the market either through the forbearance. Once those come due, those people this time around are going to be smarter, and they're just going to get out from underneath their house. And if it doesn't add enough inventory to the marketplace and interest rates are still low, I don't think we're in a real bubble. So it might drive prices a little bit, but at the same time, it's not, people aren't giving loans out to 16-year-old kids at the library anymore. So I just, the forbearance situation, it's really unfortunate that people don't understand that. And as an agent, if you come across that, you really need to understand that those people, the banks, they just want their money back. So when they have to make all 3 months or 6 months payments up front, it's going to be a really tough time. But they'll likely just sell, and it's not going to be just a mass influx like it was in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I like that, because I've heard a lot of people, especially when COVID first hit, it was a huge, is this 2008 all over again? Kind of discussions, but what we're seeing is, like you said, a lot of people have a lot of equity, and so if they're behind on mortgage payments, all they have to do is sell their house and they're good, because there's thousands and thousands of dollars that they have in their home. So that's interesting, because there was just so much talk about pre-foreclosures, this is going to be so hot, this is going to be, people are going to be in a bad situation, but the market is doing well. So it doesn't, like you said, I don't think it's going to be what everyone was so worried about before. So that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what I know right now is the market is extremely hot and we're flipping deals left and right. We're flipping houses, and I can say that now is the time to do it. But you never want to be that person who's stuck with a deal, right? So, you know, if the market takes a little bit of a correction, you know, in the future, it's going to be a while because, you know, the Fed's, they're trying to keep the rates low. So as long as that is in place, you know, and we're coming up on summertime, that's a massive time in real estate, right? That's when people are moving. Usually the kids are in school, so summer is when they're out, and that's why. But this time it's going to be like, all right, if there is some sort of correction, be ready and start buying property, because that'll be the best time. And it's also a really good time to buy investments now. So, you know, we can like try to decide what the market's going to do. I'm just deciding right now that what I'm doing is the best case for now. And they're such short-term deals. And in the future, you'll have to be able to adapt and switch gears and be ready for more. But that's when business is still good.
I like that too. Like the principle I'm hearing that you're saying is focus on right now, focus on what is hot right now, what is working right now, because the future will come. Whatever the problems in the future, they'll come. You just make sure that you can adapt. So I like that. We're running close to the end here, but I did want to ask you a question. A little bit what we were talking about earlier. You said that you were sending like mass texts, that there was all this stuff when COVID hit, that you hit the pavement, you hit the ground running. Mindy asked, are texts just as effective as phone calls? And she asked, same with letters as well. So are there alternatives to just phone calls that work for you?
Nope. I did, so I did mass texting for a little bit, and then they came in and decided to regulate that. So yay us. And it worked in the beginning when it wasn't super regulated. So, you know, I actually did away with it, but when COVID hit, it was I was sending out 1,000 to 3,000 text messages a day. I mean, you talk about every property owner in San Diego, I was trying to talk to them. And I wasn't even in San Diego. I was in Washington prospecting. So, and that, you know, that transpired really quickly, and that built pipeline. I personally don't like doing mailers. I don't like doing any of that. The fundamentals of real estate do not change. Open houses, door knocking, cold calling. You can get fancy all you want, but also too, prospecting is the cheapest form. Cold calling is the cheapest form of marketing, right? So if you hone in on that, and it could be that you just hit the pavement, like outside, like you're knocking on doors. And if that's something like you like personal interaction because people aren't doing open houses right now, go hit the door, go knock on somebody's door. I can tell you that it works. I did it a couple weeks ago. Went to this guy's house. I was actually at an appointment 2 houses down, and his house, you know, I could just tell it was distressed. Well, just so happens his family's moving him this week back to Texas, and we're going to buy the house. So that is legitimately like, and I was just in the neighborhood. So, I stick to what works and just get really good at it. You know, open houses, door knocking, cold calling. I cannot stress it enough. If you want to send mailers and you want to spend thousands of dollars on it and maybe potentially get one listing, you can. But for me, I don't recommend it. And that's a shiny object. You know, send mailers to the neighbors when you have the listing to generate more listings, but not to get the initial listing. You know, I would send a mailer to the close, 20 houses near that property and say, just wanted to invite you over, blah, 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 so that you can see it, because those people are going to generate business eventually. So, but not initially. No, just stay on the phone. You can text if you want. I don't text anymore. I hit it really hard and it was working well for me until they decided to do the opt-out messages. And then I was like, everybody's opting out. So, but the biggest listing I ever took at $2.5 million that's pending right now was from a text. So that, it works. You just got to do it consistently.
Yeah, I like that because it seems like mailers and text messaging and things is like a alternate route to get away from the hard cold call or whatever. So that's interesting that even like me working, we worked from home. REDX is a company. We worked from home for the past year.
Yeah.
And there is just nothing that can replace human connection, like face-to-face talking to each other. Like a text is nice. I think texting is better for more follow-up purposes, like you said, even mailers and things like that after you've had the initial conversation. But there's just nothing like actually talking to a human being.
Right.
And that's what I've learned just being cooped up in my house for a year now, is I want to talk to people. People are a lot more willing to talk to people because there's just that connection. So I like that. I think you just stick to the basics, and that's what has worked, and that's what will always work, right?
Yeah, and it's fun to like. You don't even have to talk to them about real estate. My roommate and one of my really good friends is an Arbonne, and she's super high up, and she's amazing at it. And you want to know why she's amazing at it? Because she's not talking about Arbonne. She's out there just building relationships, and that is what her business is. And over the phone, you can do that. You can build relationships, or if you're knocking on somebody's door and it says no soliciting, you're like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was there. How are you? What's going on? I know it's a little hard for some people, but it's a lot of fun. So
nice. Well, Ashlee, thank you so much for taking 45 minutes out of your day to come and talk to us. I think there's a lot of valuable information that people have gotten out, and I've definitely gotten out of it as well. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise. For people that are watching, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. They can send me a message or call, my business line if they'd like. I can send it over to anybody. Just be ready for craziness or whatever. But if people have questions, reach out to me. I'm an open book. I've met with people in the past who are like, oh, I don't want to show my tricks. I'm like, there's enough business for everybody here. So
yep. Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashlee. We'll put all of her information down in the show notes for people that people that are listening to this afterwards. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. I've seen the chats. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of your questions. This has been a great 45 minutes. Thank you so much. We will see you guys back here next week, same time, same place, everything, 1:30. If you aren't already subscribed to the REDX podcast, you can go to theredx.com/podcasts and put your email in, and you'll get emails with survey invites, with making sure that you're here live so that you can ask your questions live, all the good stuff. Follow us on Facebook, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all the good things. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you guys next time.